First to a warning, the worst is yet to come in Victoria, where 9 towers are in coronavirus lockdown and some residents are claiming they've been left without vital supplies. Christina Hearn is at Flemington this morning and leads our nationwide COVID-19 coverage. Chris, how are residents reacting to this detention?
Carl, good morning. Some residents are saying that they have not received adequate food or it has been out of date. They have not received essential supplies like baby formula, nor have they received proper health care. The Victorian Premier has promised that each and one of these residents will have their needs met. So on top of essential supplies, no one pays rent for 2 weeks and there will be hardship payments fast-tracked for those that get tested. This is a massive logistical operation. 9 towers, both here in Flemington and North Melbourne, more than 3,000 residents placed in hard lockdown. So what that means is nobody in and nobody out. The first time this has been done in Australia. 500 police patrolling per shift. The police union says, like residents, they were given no warning. This detention letter was sent to residents yesterday. It outlines that they are in a detention location for the next 2 weeks. However, the Premier says it will be reviewed after 5 days. As tensions in these towers continue to rise, there were confrontations with police yesterday.
But there's nothing in our building. They dumb. There's nothing. Everyone's starving, bro. Not a very pleasant one for the people in there, of course, but clearly in the interests of their safety and protecting them and the rest of the community, an appropriate one.
And there is a new development with our problem-plagued hotel quarantine, with airline staff from Jetstar, Qantas and Virgin to be our frontline workers at those hotels. So that includes cabin crew, even pilots taking up the post from our poorly trained security guards. The hotel quarantine, of course, responsible for Victoria's second wave, and the Victorian Premier not ruling out putting more postcodes into lockdown, including the CBD, if cases continue to rise. Carl.
Chris, what is happening on the ground where you are right now behind you?
So as you can see, I'll just step out, you can see that there are police. So there is a large number of police. You can see also it's just, I think, a change of shift. But this is what confronts residents. When they look out of their window, there are these huge numbers of police and also in the foyer to make sure no one's in and no one's out. So it would be quite confronting for these thousands of residents in the towers.
Christina Hearn, thank you.
Australia's economy has been hit by a virus sledgehammer, and this morning we're learning what it's going to take to rebuild. Let's go live to Canberra and federal political reporter Kerry Yaxley. Kerry, it is a hard, long road ahead, especially for Victoria.
Yeah, absolutely, Ali. Every state and territory has been impacted by this, but Deloitte Access Economics, in its latest report, predicts that the Victorian economy will be the worst off for this financial year and that some particularly hard-hit sectors will see prolonged misery. If a vaccine or antivirals are available mid-next year and Australia is generally able to keep the virus under control, then the report predicts that the national economy will bounce back in the years ahead, but employment and wages will be slow to catch up. Interest rates will remain, quote, nailed to the floor for some time yet. We will get a full economic picture when the Treasurer, Josh Frydenberg, hands down his economic statement on July 23rd, Ali.
Yeah, and it's not going to be good. Thanks, Kerry. Victoria's AFL teams are settling into their new home away from home, with all 10 sides moved interstate in a bid to secure the season's competition. Gabrielle Boyle is at Sydney's Pullman Hyde Park Hotel, where Geelong has set up camp. Gabby, what will this mean for the players?
Well, Lara, it will mean that players are away from family, friends and their support networks for weeks. We're being told it could be 5 weeks or even longer that teams are forced to relocate interstate to make sure that the AFL can keep playing. We know that Collingwood and Hawthorn have relocated here to Sydney. St Kilda have relocated to Noosa, and Carlton, they are on the Gold Coast. This is a desperate bid to make sure that the league is able to continue playing throughout the COVID crisis in this second second wave, which has hit Victoria. Of course, these teams have a whole ensemble that travel with them. They've got coaches, admin staff, equipment and medical staff as well. So it is a really big operation relocating these teams. Gary Ablett, who played his 350th game over the weekend, gave us some insight into how hard it is for these players themselves when he told us that his mother-in-law is battling cancer and that his son has a very serious medical condition. He's leaving that all behind to make sure he can back up his team through the rest of the season. Lara?
All right, Gabby, thank you.
Partygoers in Brisbane could be slapped with fines with their moves on the dance floor, drawing attention from authorities and scrutiny from the rest of the country. Jess Millwood has the story. Check it out. Boy, oh boy. Jess, dancing against the rules.
Well, Carl, it is unless you can maintain social distancing, so 1.5 metres between each person. Quite clearly in these videos posted to social media on the weekend, that simply is not happening. Nightclubs could reopen on Friday as part of a sweeping easing of restrictions across Queensland. But the very direct message from the Premier was that people must not take to the dance floor. Rather, they were to sit down and listen to the music and only get up to go to the bar to get a drink. But as you can see from these videos, the dance floors at a number of nightclubs were completely rammed. So police have said that they are now working with the Office of Liquor and Gaming. They are looking at this vision, and if the nightclubs were found to have breached their COVID-safe plans, which quite clearly that looks to be the case, they will be fined. Aside from that, the Premier says she's quite happy with the behaviour of Queenslanders after the easing of restrictions on the weekend. 0 new cases. Once again, yesterday we only have 1 active case of coronavirus in the entire state of Queensland. Hard to believe when you see what's going on just a few hours away in Victoria. Carl?
Jess Millwood, thank you.
As eastern states restrict overseas arrivals, South Australia is picking up the slack, becoming a host to international travellers. Live to Georgia Westgarth in Adelaide now, and Georgia, extra hotels have been put on standby.
Well, that's right, Ali. Adelaide hotels are preparing to take on more international travellers. On Saturday, we had more than 100 people arrive here from Malaysia. They were placed into 14 days of self-isolation in city hotels, and that's on top of more than 300 Australians who arrived here last month, and more are expected within days. Victoria is not accepting international passenger flights, and New South Wales has introduced a cap of 50 per flight. So the South Australian government is getting ready to fill the void. We understand 2 more quarantine hotels are on standby. Our borders remain closed to Victoria indefinitely, and there were no new cases reported yesterday, so we're travelling very well here. And Cooper's Brewery is actually, they're giving out 15,000 free beers at more than 300 pubs across Australia, so I'm sure there'll be a big uptake, and why not?
Of course. Thanks, Georgia.
There are calls for the government to clamp down on TikTok, with concerns that the Chinese-owned app is being infiltrated by Beijing's communist government. A federal MP has told News Corp that the popular application has not been taken seriously enough until now. A Senate inquiry will look into whether it should be banned to protect Australia's national security. Life has returned to the streets of London, with pubs across England reopening for the first time in months. Our Europe correspondent Ben Avery has more for us this morning. Ben, did everyone follow the rules?
Most people did, but there is a bit of controversy around some vision that's been emerging from Soho in London's West End. Huge crowds flocked there, enjoying their newfound freedoms, heading to their favourite night spots. They were celebrating, they were dancing, but unfortunately not many were wearing masks, and there wasn't too much social distancing going on. So it has brought the lockdown rules into question, and the way that the UK government's been pulling back those lockdown rules, especially in a country that's continuing to have localised outbreaks of the disease and a death toll, guys, that now stands at around 44,000.